We're going to be continuing the Ed on the Edge theme with another conversation surrounding climate change and sustainability. So I'm really excited to welcome our next two guests. We are going to be joined by Jim Andrew, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer at PepsiCo, one of the world's leading food and beverage companies, which he joined in 2016. And he leads the PepsiCo Positive agenda to drive sustainability through business operations transformation and partnerships across organizations. I previously worked at Philips, Sears Holding Corp, and BCG. And I'm going to be turning things over to Leighanne Levensaler, who will be leading the discussion. Leighanne is on the board of directors of Guild Education, so we're really excited to have them both here. So here to talk about driving sustainability to scale, please welcome Jim and Leighanne.
We are absolutely delighted to be here today, and we're going to, just share a few highlights of the inspiring, bold, appropriately audacious work that PepsiCo is undertaking to transform the entire company with sustainability at the center, and to really accelerate positive impact for the planet, people, and our communities. PepsiCo really needs no introduction. But just to give you a little sense of scale, I didn't know this. PepsiCo, people consume, thank you for a little bit of feedback there. People consume, people enjoy, I should say, consumers enjoy PepsiCo products about 1 billion a day. Is that crazy? 1 billion a day. And in 2021, the company continues to grow. The company their net revenue, I think, generated just slightly under 80 billion. Which is an incredible jump from the year prior. PepsiCo, we all know about Pepsi-Cola, but the portfolio of Pepsi brands, the other things we enjoy, Doritos, Lay's, Cheetos, which are my kryptonite, Mountain Dew, Gatorade, Quaker, did I get them all? And SodaStream. So, broad portfolio. Huge impact on big operations, big societal impact. And so that's really like the backdrop for here today. And Jim, you've had, as I shared in the introduction, a variety of roles. You are currently part of the executive team. You are the Chief Sustainability Officer. But you've also been the head of strategy, and you've led the Beyond the Bottle business. Now, you are leading this massive global transformation effort. And last fall, it was branded under the moniker of PepsiCo Positive or Pep Positive, and really stated that this is the future of the company. You and your CEO have said, this is the future of the company, we're charting a new course. Can you give us a sense of what was the impetus for PepsiCo Positive, and what are some of the goals?
Yeah, great. Thanks, and just a quick thanks to ASU and GSV for having us here. It's a real privilege and pleasure. As you said, PepsiCo is a very large company, and we, for example, farm crops also in 60 different countries around the world, 25 major crops. And as we just, what was the impetus around it? It's really three things. It's our consumers. Consumers are increasingly moving forward with a set of considerations that, if you think about ourselves, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, they weren't things that were important to most people. Customers, food service, the people like the Hyatt and others, as well as many universities and colleges. I know we have a number of those in the room. And all of those things are really driving forward, because what we want to do is we want to have a business that is positive and but also has a positive impact on the planet. And by being better as a company, we think that we can also help future-proof that business, but then also really have a positive impact on the people, on the planet, and through some leadership be able to bring some other companies along. So that was really what was behind it. And as you said, it is an absolute commitment from the top down, and we've got 300,000 people around the world, and part of our journey is how do we bring them all along.
Right. And what are some of the specific goals associated with PepsiCo Positive?
Yeah, there's really three major areas. Most people don't know we're a very significant agricultural presence. We use about 7 million acres a year of farmland. So we have really three pillars. One's around positive agriculture, where we're going to bring regenerative farming practices to 7 million acres, which is basically our entire agricultural footprint. A whole set of things around emissions, water, packaging in our value chain. And then also about how do we continue to evolve choices? So how do we use more diverse ingredients? We've been on a long journey of reducing sugars, saturated fat, and sodium. How do we accelerate that journey? And then how do we bring disruptive innovation to the market, things like SodaStream and SodaStream Professional that don't have packaging and really move away from single-use packaging? That underpinned by a whole people agenda, both for communities and then also for people of color. So we have a $570 million commitment in our racial equality journey. You know, those are some very concrete goals in all those areas that we have, and we hold ourselves accountable for it, and we expect others to as well.
And how is PepsiCo Positive different than, you know, a set of initiatives or programs that you've had for decades focused on sustainability? Why now, and what's different about this moment for PepsiCo?
Yeah, you said it. It's not, you know, in so many companies, and you know, you and I have both worked in a lot and seen a lot. You know, sustainability is over here and the business is over here. And what we've really committed is they're one and the same. Because if you have a sustainable business, you can grow sustainably, but you also have a positive impact on the world. And those things can't be separated, and we really believe that in our heart of hearts, and that's really what makes it different. You know, we've said things like it's the strategy of the company, it's the future of the company, it's how we're going to run the company, and so it's, you know, our overall one of our taglines is winning with PepsiCo Positive. We want to be a winning company, but the way we're going to do it are all the things we're talking about here. It is squarely in the center of how we run the company.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I love the frame of by being better, by being better ourselves, we, as PepsiCo, we can be stronger and provide a more sustainable future for everyone. And so that's really, you know, from my perspective, corporate responsibility, the essence of corporate responsibility, being better yourself so you can take care of others and doing business the right way. We have, that's really easy to say, very hard to change hearts and minds. And you have a lot of hearts and minds to change. You said you have over 300,000 global associates. You have millions of people in the overall PepsiCo supply chain. It's about building capability, isn't it? And this audience knows a lot about tapping into human potential to transform society, to transform businesses that ultimately transform society. How are you inspiring, mobilizing all those constituents, your global associates? How are you doing that to accelerate positive impact, as you say?
Yeah. Well, first, I'm here to learn because, you know, we're really good at making products and moving products and selling products. But how do you mobilize 300,000 people and, as you say, millions beyond that? That's an area that, you know, we try and be humble in that there's a lot we always have to learn. You know, really, I see it as three things. The first is, you know, how do we educate? Because we have a lot of people who, again, this isn't second nature to them. You know, so how do we educate people? How do we bring them along? And, you know, we've got a core curriculum of courses that have been developed. They are mandatory for thousands of people in the organization, and more importantly, they're mandatory for the top 200. And so, you know, what is water stewardship in high water risk areas? You know, that's something that doesn't roll off the tongue of many people. We've, you know, done with one of our sponsors here, ASU, we've put together the PepsiCo Water Academy, which is our real capstone course around how do we, at a very local level, drive water positivity, because we want to replenish more water than we use. You know, so there's educate. There's also how do we enable? Because we can teach people things, but if they don't know what to do and don't have the tools and capabilities, you know, and so we've got a climate goal simulator, right? So, because I want to connect what people do, their behavior, with their actions, so that they see what the implications are. We've also done things like with Guild, actually, put together a set of upskilling activities where we have hundreds of courses that 100,000 people now have access to with PepsiCo paying for to be able to improve their livelihoods. And some will stay at PepsiCo and some will go somewhere else. That's okay. We want to really drive that livelihood element. And then the final piece is really around how do we incentivize? So I can educate, I can empower, I also want to incentivize. And so 300,000 people have a requirement to set goals in what we call the better pillar. How do we do things in a better way? And that's really sustainability in our people agenda. And then, we're harnessing all the awards. We have a whole program around the next big idea. So there's a whole set of things in those 3 areas that we're doing to move the organization forward and make it real, as you said.
Right. And we all, I think, can feel the challenges with such scale. What are some of the advantages of scale from your perspective?
The biggest advantage by far is impact. If I'm not an environmental engineer, I have a lot working for me, but I'm a business guy with a passion for sustainability. And the reason I'm in the job is to get things done. How do we move the organization forward? Because if I can help move PepsiCo, 200 countries, 300,000 people, we can actually have a meaningful impact. And that's by far the biggest impact. It's a big stage. Right? And whether it's scaling startups or driving emissions reductions, big companies do big things well, and that's the most exciting part of size and scale. And we can use that for good with suppliers and a whole lot of other people too.
And attracting the right kind of talent and retaining the right kind of talent to really be on an important mission that you can have that kind of impact. I know that's so important across all generations, but certainly something that many of us here feel. We mentioned the value chain of PepsiCo, how significant, how large it is. Partnerships, collaboration, so important to actually achieving your goals. You're not going to be able to do it at PepsiCo on your own. The entire value chain has to support these goals. That's something in the ed tech market, the nature of the work that we do, we're all interconnected. It's a dynamic market. Our success is assuming we nurture the right kind of ecosystem, we can all share in that success. So how do you think about incentive structures? You mentioned incentives earlier. Incentive structures and outcomes across the entire value chain to really drive your objectives.
Yeah, so I'd say sustainability is a team sport. We partnership and collaboration, and I'll partner with anybody who can help us achieve our goals. Competitors, anybody.
Do you partner with competitors?
We do partner with competitors because there's areas that are pre-competitive. You always have to have lawyers in the room when you have those conversations, but pre-competitive, you can do certain things. But getting back to your question, I still have to educate my value chain. I still have to empower them. But if you talk about incentives, because I think that's very important, that's a place where our size and scale really comes to the fore. We can send demand signals. So we're in a number of groups around renewable energy with the EPA and with the State Department. How do we send messages internally? We're one of the top 15 renewable electricity buyers in the United States. That sends a very clear message when we get together with others, sends an even stronger investable message. We're sending that message with the State Department to a group of countries, starting with Vietnam. Hey, there's a demand out there. So we can help incentivize that. Another way is, we can incentivize that partnership. For example, we have a group called PepsiCo Labs, and it's really about how do you make it easy to partner with startups, right? And I know that's an area of interest to many people here. We've screened, in the last couple of years, we've screened 2,000 startups. We have partnered and done pilots with 150, and we're globally scaling 25 of them. But we had to build that capability to then incent the best partners, the best startups to come to us, the best VCs to come to us. But in return, we use that size that you mentioned to scale and bring the capabilities of PepsiCo in a partnership with them. And that's something that a lot of founders, entrepreneurs find pretty attractive.
Right, you're absolutely enabling them to leapfrog. You are clearly passionate and you have a true north, and I know the energy is palpable when we connect and talk. There are many in this audience and watching that are trying to, or charged with galvanizing support for extraordinary goals. What advice do you have for them? You're going through this at PepsiCo, you're charting a new course. What advice do you have for leaders here?
Well, I'm certainly looking for advice from all of you, especially that one person who stood up and clapped. So thank you. I think there's really three things. We got to tell them, where are we going? Why is it important to solve climate change? It may be obvious to everybody here. Why is it important to revolutionize education? It may be obvious to everyone here. It's not obvious to everyone. So why is it important? Where are we trying to go? We're trying to have net zero emissions by 2040. Why is it important? Because of all of us, our children, our nieces, our nephews, our neighbors, right? And then most importantly, I think, is what can I do? What can I as a person do? And so I spend a lot of time about, how do we unlock people's imagination so that all 300,000 can say, I see what I can do to actually move the company forward on its mission. And that's, I think, the most important piece. You got to connect all that together. I mean, what we're trying to do is not simple. Yep. But it's really exciting. Creating a more sustainable business, a more sustainable planet, more sustainable for the people, that is something that really gets me excited. I'm really looking forward to partnering with anybody here or listening who can help us with our goals. And so I just really appreciate the opportunity. But it's a team sport. We all got to work together.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. And what a great connection to the last discussion on this stage about helping people understand how they can take personal action to that. So thank you so much. I know PepsiCo benefits from your effective steward, being an effective steward of the business. But we are all so very fortunate that you and PepsiCo are trying to improve our planet. So thank you so much. This conversation flew by. I hope you all have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.